Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerds at Large Quick Thoughts. We'll see how quick these are for the Microsoft Bethesda Megaton that was dropped on us this morning.
Spoilers is probably not going to be quick.
I like to think that the name Quick Thoughts, while it originally had good intentions, is now an ironic name.
But it's a Nerds at Large property, so you know that's a
It's going to at least be double the length we intend.
every time without fail.
Yeah.
This is like legitimately, I said this before we started recording. I think there's an argument to be made. This is the biggest individual thing that's happened since we started this channel. Like individual one piece of news, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know what it would have been before. I mean, stuff like crossplay was huge. There's been lots of big things or whatever, but I mean, this is like, it's probably one of the biggest accusations I've ever seen in gaming. I mean, I'm sure there's something that rivals it, but very, very few, you know, at least not in modern times that I can think of.
I guess Activision Blizzard would have been more of a merger, right? So
yeah. Because, I mean, the two companies kind of still, I don't know. Blizzard still kind of exists.
Top 5 easy.
Oh, easy.
Easy clap.
Easy. I mean, even like Square and Enix merging is big and stuff. I mean, this is still like,
again, as a mergers, this is if you were going to use the term acquisition,
it's a big fucking deal. it's real big. Yeah, I don't know. How do you want to like go into the specifics of what the deal was in case someone has just completely like missed the details of this before we just start rambling on about.
Well, yeah, I mean the main thing about this is Microsoft and Square acquired ZeniMax Media for $7.5 billion.
Yeah, which
I had to double check to make sure ZeniMax didn't have more than just these game studios. And it's like, no, this is pretty much it.
Okay, I was interested in that too because I really didn't know. I was
like based on what I saw on Wikipedia, no, this is pretty much about. I mean, and it makes sense because that's what everyone's. I mean, that would have been most of what people in our circle talked about, but someone probably would have brought up like, okay, this makes more sense for the kind of money because of this as well, and my Xbox brand is just benefiting from it.
Right. That's what my immediate thought, honestly, when I saw the $7.5 billion price tag. My immediate thought was, okay, ZeniMax must have some streaming service in China or some shit that I don't know.
It might have more. Might have some kind of more things than just these game studios, but that seems primarily a game thing.
Like the primary thing for this price tag, and this is where like I don't know, Jeff. I've always like when a lot of times when things like this happen, I have like a reaction and I feel a certain way, and I like stay feeling that way, and I feel like more confident about it. I don't know here, like this is just such a like. It's just crazy. I don't know if it's good, bad, what, like, it's just wild. And like when I look at it, it's like there's obviously very, very good. This is going to do very good things for Xbox. Like no one can dispute that. Like just Xbox as a brand will benefit from this. Like I don't think any of us really knew this was on the table, to be honest. Like
no. This. I think you have frequently joked on this podcast about them acquiring specifically like Bethesda and a couple other people.
No one ever, like Warner Brothers was already crazy, but that's like a lot less as far as numbers of studios and stuff.
Well, also I think it's something that's huge compared to the Warner Brothers, which they will get to later. Bring that up again is, this actually comes with the IP. Yeah, Microsoft now owns the Elder Scrolls series.
But like it's inherently, no matter what, a good thing for them having those IP. $7.5 billion is a lot of fucking money. For context, I think the Star Wars Disney deal was like
$4 billion.
Okay, yeah, it was like, I thought it was like 4.5. It's around.
I think it was 2.4-ish billion for Minecraft.
Yeah,
that's fucking Minecraft.
And I mean, maybe like I don't know. I'm ignorant. Maybe this is just because video games and because of the sheer amount of video games and everything. But I do feel like Microsoft is kind of paying for the potential of Bethesda more than the actual Bethesda that is right now. Because I think, no one can argue Bethesda is not in its best state that it's been. It's in a pretty dark spot of its history overall. Like, it has... Doom did really well. Fallout 4 sold really well.
Okay, but I think the important thing, kind of going what you're saying, at least recently, besides, honestly, just Doom, they haven't had a game for a little while that sells well and critically loved. Like, it kind of sells well, but it's critically panned. Like, I guess Fallout 76 kind of did well, but I don't know. They keep on supporting it, so that says something maybe. But then a bunch of games that review very well, like the Wolfenstein games and
Dishonored,
Prey. And all that kind of stuff, but don't necessarily, from what we can tell, sell what they want.
Evil Within. I mean,
exactly.
That's the problem with modern Bethesda, is that list is long. That list of games that they've sunk a lot of money into and not got that money back. Yeah. To the point where something like this kind of makes sense from Bethesda's point to me. Because Bethesda can't be in a great spot. Obviously, Skyrim will keep that company afloat regardless how poorly everything else sells. But Bethesda, for multiple years now, has had project after project after project. They are AAA projects. These are not like small games, and like none of them have panned out critically, commercially. I meant, other than Doom. And Doom Eternal. That's like it. That's it. Those are the only ones that actually meet what was expected of them. And it's like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money Bethesda's been throwing into an incinerator. I mean, I know everyone loves these games, but that's not the point. It's like the sales is the point when it comes to your company and your longevity. So from Bethesda's standpoint, this makes perfect sense. I just feel, and I don't even like that $7.5 billion price point might be right, because even if Bethesda is not using their properties to their fullest extent right now, the fact that you own Elder Scrolls and Fallout alone is fucking huge. Yes. Like, not to mention all the other IP. I mean, they own Doom now. They own Doom. Doom Guy and Master Chief are under the same umbrella. It's weird. It's really weird.
Huh, maybe they can make that Microsoft Smash Bros. After all.
Yeah, that's what everyone's been saying on Twitter. They can finally do their
finally have the roster.
Yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to drive this ship a little bit?
Okay, I guess we can kind of start here. How do we feel about the fact that Microsoft acquired what we would consider one of the big third-party publishers that pretty much, and frequent guest Jacob Hamill brought up in our little group text chat that I'll bring up his wording.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see. And Jacob, if you don't like me doing this, just let me know. I've seen you.
I mean, kind of too late, but I'm sure it's fine.
I mean, he just pretty much said he's not crazy about this level of consolidation.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something he would have said on this podcast.
Yeah. And I get that. Like, I think that's something. Like, will this start something between Sony and Microsoft where they just acquire everything,
or just like a bidding war of the destruction of the third party?
Yeah. Like, or it just Microsoft acquiring one of these big publishers in general is kind of.
Yeah, I don't. Again, it's hard. I don't know what I feel about any of this. It was kind of too big for me to like.
I feel like me and you were more okay/happy with the acquisitions Microsoft has been doing so far, because they've generally been smaller indie developers that always have to find someone to publish, and that always have that problem. So job security was always an issue, and they may not always been as successful as they wanted, but they were obviously talented. So those acquisitions made perfect sense for both Microsoft and the individual developer. While, we just kind of talked about why this potentially makes sense for Bethesda maybe, but this screams more of Microsoft just gave them an ungodly amount of money they just couldn't refuse.
Oh yeah, make no mistake. This is kind of the thing that has always been in the cards but never happened. You got to remember that even though Microsoft for years and years and years has been losing this fight to PlayStation overall, I mean, even 360 generation, PS3 sold more. I mean, like overall, Sony has been this juggernaut in gaming, and Microsoft is kind of like the smaller kid on the block. Microsoft is a way bigger company than Sony, way bigger. So this was always in the table that if someone at Xbox could convince Microsoft to invest enough in gaming, these are the type of things that they can do. They can throw
you're pretty much right. It's like, can Phil convince someone higher up outside of the gaming thing, like, hey, this could be good for us?
And I will say, I'm not going to give it all to Phil Spencer. Obviously, is a lot more one man, but I'll say the Phil Spencer team of Xbox that like took over after the Xbox One launch. The people, I forgot who was the guy in charge, but the Phil Spencer and his team of decision makers who took over from this are arguably becoming now one of the most like influential gaming decision makers in history now, because that they basically convinced Xbox to fire the nuclear weapons here. It's like that's what it feels like. It feels like the atomic bomb was just dropped.
So this is apparently something to like as far as a potential bidding war. Apparently between 2013 and 2019, Sony's games division operating profit was only $8.8 billion.
Yeah, but so this is like, obviously, again, this is a move that PlayStation can't do. I mean, this is not something they can do. But like the thing that I'm very interested to see what you think about this. I really in my heart don't know what Xbox is going to do with this.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 50-50 shot of like, I mean, with an acquisition like this, Xbox can easily now suddenly flip the script and be like, no, we're competing in the hardware space and we're going to do pretty well. And like, I still think, so Sony is going to do just fine because Sony is, also very set up with a very big slate of exclusives. But just having Elder Scrolls 6, if it is exclusive alone, it's fucking huge. I mean, that would sell units there. I'm not convinced that's what they're doing, though. Like, I really do think
I was wondering where we're gonna get. I know we're gonna get to this part. I guess we're getting into it now.
I mean, this is all loosey goosey. We're all over the place. But like, I really don't know. I honestly, in my heart, don't know if all of these games are gonna all be on everything, including PlayStation 5, or if like the big games are gonna be exclusive. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll start with here to get to the facts that we do know. Yeah. They already said they will fulfill Deathloop and Ghostwire's exclusivity contracts.
That's a separate thing we have to talk about for sure.
Yeah. And Bethesda, they said Bethesda games will be on other consoles as well as Xbox and PC, of course, on a case-by-case basis, they said.
Yeah.
And pretty much what the internet has been doing is pretty much twisting that to mean whatever they wanted to.
Because it can, pretty much.
So, yeah. Brought that up because that's kind of an obvious thing, but that's what we got, so that's all we can base on. I'm of two minds about, like, I am conflicted about what this means. This could easily mean they pull a Minecraft where they're like, yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield and stuff and the new Fallouts, yeah, that can go on the other console. Sure, it makes a lot of money. And then keep the Dishonored and Dooms and stuff for themselves. But they just paid $7.5 billion.
That's kind of my thought, yeah.
I don't see why you would do that, pull that, and then still do the biggest part of your deal, the part that you would assume would be the biggest chunk of your deal, and like, oh, we're going to give this to our competitor.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of again, you cannot buy into these companies' messaging too much. We've learned that this year because the vast majority of what both companies said was a load of horseshit when it comes to marketing their next gen. Xbox has been talking a lot of big game about, we want to be the service that's available everywhere we want, like active users. We don't care about hardware numbers as much. That's the vibe they've been giving off, and this could. I mean, even if they're exclusive, this is still true. This, obviously, Game Pass was already just a no-brainer thing. Now it's like, it's getting to a, like, almost
comical level of, like...
it's getting to a scary point where it's like, it's just going to eat market share, which it's a very good deal, but it's like, this thing's getting crazy. It's getting to the point where it's like...
We thought that EA Play deal was big.
Yeah, it's like...
How cute.
It's cute in comparison. Very cute comparison. so this could just be an example of like we're just like you'll be able to play it anywhere, but like the main selling point will be Game Pass. And like I've seen a lot of people say online, Elder Scrolls and like new Fallout games or whatever else, they might not be exclusive. They might not have to be exclusive because you'll be telling people, yeah, you can go spend $70 and buy it on the PS5, or you could get a $10 a month Game Pass subscription and play all of these games, including Elder Scrolls, right when it comes out and everything. Yeah. It's like that alone might be enough to like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll sure as hell be playing all these games on PC. I already would have anyway, but you know.
No. I agree with you. Like, obviously, this is a part of this. Why they decided on this deal was Game Pass to make that like, oh yeah, you can't not have this now. But again, it's like, would they buy that, and then the biggest parts of this acquisition still allowed to go to other people? Yeah. I mean, I know they would run like see how. Look at the models and see, okay, money-wise, how do we do if we keep it exclusive potentially? Plus, what we would make putting it on Sony's platforms as well.
I mean, traditional console logic also obviously says you keep it exclusive, and this is a big enough acquisition to instantly overnight make Xbox a competitor.
Well, for example, Mr. William Outlaw, I'm going to quote him now from our text read, pretty much said, well, looks like I'll have to be getting an Xbox Series. I can't remember if he said S or X.
I think he said S. But
yeah. Like, well, yeah. Exactly the point I was going to bring. Like, for some people who got Sony and like are big Bethesda fans, like, S might be cheap enough, or it's cheap enough, or might be cheap enough at the time when like Elder Scrolls 6 actually comes out. Yeah. Like, okay, I will get this.
And I mean, it's smarter than Microsoft because like you're not going to stop most people. Like, there's a big chunk of people like us who are going to get PS5s, and there's nothing that can stop that because they have exclusive games that I am going to play. Like, even if I'll take, in a world where I didn't have a PC, you could get me to buy an Xbox also, but not instead. But them having that cheaper option probably makes a lot of people like this Bethesda thing, along with like, hey, we have a $300 option, will probably get a lot of people to be like, all right, fuck, it's like I'll drop the price and drop down the money.
No, I mean, I mentioned it earlier when they announced all like the Xbox Series S and stuff. Like, if I didn't have that. My laptop, I'd probably get an S at some point for sure. Like,
if there was no other alternative,
more and more like I have zero question about that for Game Pass.
Yeah, if you were just a console only person, then like that makes the most sense to at least down the line get an S or something if you have a little bit more disposable income. We might circle back around the Game Pass or whatever, but do you want to talk about Deathloop and Ghostwire?
Sure. So like, as I mentioned, they said they will fulfill Deathloop and Ghostwire's exclusivity contracts as well. I think we can assume just kind of in a smaller scale, games that already been announced for, I don't know how many more there actually would be, how we would count for Bethesda. If they announce for a platform, they'll still allow them like they have for literally every other thing they acquired with already announced platforms.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it was already like kind of an unprecedented move for them to acquire Outer Worlds and then say like, oh yeah, you can Obsidian, you can go ahead and still publish that everywhere. It's no big deal. That was already, everyone was like, oh wow, that's different. Like, I don't think that would have happened 10 years ago in the gaming industry. Like, that was already weird enough. This is peak craziness. I mean, like, let's stop and respect how wild this whole situation has gotten. Xbox this fall is going to publish
next year.
Next year is going to publish 2 PS5 exclusive games. You might boot up Deathloop exclusive on your PS5 and see Xbox Game Studios.
I'm actually very curious.
I hope they do.
I'm curious because there's precedent for that. Does Minecraft do that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But also, I think something to point out to something about Deathloop and Ghostwire, which might affect that whole thing when they're coming out. Microsoft expects the acquisition to close between January and June of next year. So depending when it was, Deathloop may technically come out before it is technically Microsoft's.
Yeah. it's interesting.
No, it is crazy. Like as far as we know, like in our minds from here on out, every Bethesda thing is going to be a Microsoft game, and even if it doesn't close, but it's like it's so weird. Like this is technically a Microsoft Studios game, and it's only playable right now on PlayStation and PC. I can't. It's already making me think. I probably should have looked it up, but. Is definitely launching a PC at the same time.
Do not remember.
Let me try to look real quick because that's an important thing. Because now, Dar, you said you were interested. Game Pass day one.
Yeah, I wonder if that would. I wonder. That's a weird thing. Yeah, I wonder if that would be. Included in that.
I mean, it would. I mean, they've said all their games are coming to Game Pass day one.
I guess. Do we have to wait for this deal?
It says platforms, Windows, so I think it's
Okay. Nice.
I think at least for Deathloop they've been saying PC at the same time, so
that's crazy.
So we'd be able to we've been talking about where it's in that game. We ain't playing on PC day one.
And like any new Doom, Wolfenstein, any of these like the id games, any of that will all come day one on Game Pass, which is wild. I was about to use that to jump off into something else, but then I forgot. There's too many things to talk about here. There's too many juicy nugs.
Well, just kind of on the Ghostwire tangent, just kind of a cool thing. Well, they've been talking about getting a Japanese studio. They got Tango now.
Yeah, whoever it was on Twitter said like that was a really like expensive way just to get a Japanese studio. Damn, I lost it again, Jeff. There's too much going on in my brain. And I had it for a second.
All I'm saying is Tim Schafer, Shinji Mikami collaboration.
God damn it. All right. Well, maybe I'll remember it again in a second. I mean, I was thinking, I don't know. I am frazzled, Jeff. I'm bamboozled, frazzled all over the place. Nothing makes sense anymore.
Yep. So we kind of talk about what this meant for Xbox and kind of Game Pass. Is there anything more you want to say about that particular topic as far as those companies? Like, I mean, now Xbox has 23 game studios.
Yeah.
It went from about, what, 2-ish years ago to 23. They almost tripled the amount of studios they have.
Yeah, and this kind of changes things some because like the studios that they had acquired, they were all like a lot of them were in the ends of projects and stuff. So it's like, you know, this is going to take a long time to see the fruits of this labor. Might not be as true for Bethesda because Bethesda was their own company already making all these things. Like
they're making AAA games.
Yeah, who knows what they had cooking in the background that we don't know about? You know,
I honestly feel like I guess it's going into what does this mean for Bethesda type thing. I feel like for the most part, maybe it could affect some of the Bethesda smaller projects. I don't know. I don't think this will probably not affect what Bethesda themselves, those studios make too much. Like, as far as what kind of projects they make, which makes sense because, you know, Microsoft's pretty much letting people do whatever the hell they want. Which could mean more interesting things for Bethesda studios, depending. I don't know. Yeah. But from with a budget standpoint, I don't know how much that will actually change for these studios.
No,
like it does for like Double Fine.
I do think just inherently, I think more attention is going to be put on Bethesda, at least from like the gaming hardcore and stuff, just because like Bethesda is the like Naughty Dog or Santa Monica or those type of things. Of Microsoft now. Yeah. Like Bethesda has the weight of being like, I mean, they're going to be the premier Microsoft. Like at least like Bethesda Game Studios is instantly the premier Xbox
definitely.
Studios.
When even at this point, partly because the studios like Ninja Theory and Double Fine and stuff haven't in a city and haven't been there as long. We haven't been talking about when people. For partly console wars reasons, talk about the big AAA games that both Xbox and Sony have. They only really pointed to like Halo and Gears on the Sony side and a couple other little things. Now it's like, well, now you got to throw Skyrim and Doom and Fallout and all that shit in there, and that certainly makes I just put in there, we can bring that up. E3 conferences a lot more interest, like showings, like we were talking about. Me and you have been talking about for years how Bethesda doesn't need press conferences.
No,
and this is a crazy way to kill them. But you know what?
We did it.
But. No,
but I mean, it'll be great seeing Bethesda inside of Xbox.
Well, I mean, like we mentioned, like right after the Sony thing in June, that like, see, isn't this great? We got just the two Bethesda game, what would have been the only two interesting Bethesda things in their conference just right here. Yeah. Now it'll pretty much be that in Microsoft's show.
Yeah, and it's wild. I still definitely want to say, like, if you were saying, like, how do you compare the output, or like compare these two companies, like even after this acquisition, all these IPs and everything, I mean, like, Sony is still the one who has the most proven quality. Like, every game they put out is like bare minimum a 9, and it's like they put out some of the best games I've ever played, and like the quality is there. Xbox already has things to prove. Like, they have a lot of potential and everything with these things they've acquired, but they've yet to like actually like give us the tangible, amazing games yet. Like, they're all like, Halo's coming, Fable's coming, Hellblade 2's coming, all this stuff or whatever. Honestly, Bethesda's in the same boat. Bethesda has lots of potential and has a history of success, but that history is getting further and further away. It's like they are, again, in probably the darkest part of their history, I would say. So I think both Xbox and Bethesda, like Xbox, all of a sudden now they are like tied with Sony, at least on the IP front, on the name recognition and the big IPs they have. I think Sony's IPs are in a better place right now. Like, Fallout's not in a good place. Elder Scrolls is so distant. In the past and in the future distant. So it's kind of hard. And
like for Bethesda, like we kept on saying, and I want to bring up a point after this, like a lot of quality games are like in Wolfenstein and Evil Within and stuff, but not necessarily the sales thing. But I guess, again, we're going to be all over the place. We're all over the place. We're going to continue. But think about how it's helped indie games and even some of Microsoft's games, like how much maybe Game Pass will help those IP when they are Game Pass day one, like as far as word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. Because from what we've seen, Game Pass has not really hurt sales for these games so far from what we've seen. So I'd be interested to see how it does for these Bethesda games. There's things like me and you, there would have been a much higher chance of us playing like Prey or Wolfenstein or any of these if it was just like... Well, now it's like we were talking about, we're interested in Deathloop and Ghostwire. We're probably playing those day one, baby. Yeah. I mean, it was a game that was like, I probably wouldn't have spent $60 or $70 on it, because like I'm interested, but not like that interested. There's too many other things I'm interested in, but it's like, Game Pass just changes all of that instantly. So like some of Bethesda's more like, for lack of a better term, like experimental niche, like smaller stuff, like the Dishonored, Praise, Wolfenstein, Evil Within, like they're not like the Elder Scrolls things or whatever. So they're harder to get people's in the door, but Game Pass immediately just shatters those walls and gets kind of for me. And I think you can back me up on this. There have been numerous Bethesda games where I'm like, this looks interesting to me, but I never pulled the trigger on it. Like never. Yeah. But partly because of cost and use that question. They're not like a Ubisoft that like just most of their games I have zero interest in. Usually, almost every Bethesda game, I'm like, this looks good. It's like, this looks interesting. And a lot of times it is good. Yeah. These, like we talked about these games recently, but hasn't necessarily been my thing enough or been seeing enough to make me pull the trigger on getting it. Same. But again, I can now do it without no additional cost to me. And in a weird way for me right now, I'm more excited about seeing those type of devs within Bethesda and see how they prosper under Xbox with all that support and everything. Even though the reason why they bought this was for Bethesda Game Studios. But Bethesda Game Studios is kind of the thing that I'm currently right now least excited about, because I think Bethesda Game Studios is a dinosaur. I mean, I think they are getting outclassed. They pioneered. They were one of the biggest pioneers and one of the biggest reasons why open world like Western RPGs took off in the way they did. And like Witcher, all these other ones have Skyrim to thank for that. But that's
Skyrim was a decade ago. I mean, like, Bethesda Game Studios is your grandpa who's past his prime at this point. They're being outclassed by CD Projekt Red, all these others. But the potential is still there. I mean, that's like Xbox is buying a potential. They're buying the fact that these Fallout and Elder Scrolls were like two of the biggest IPs in gaming, and they could be again, you know.
I like how, just go back to the Western RPG front. How crazy is it that we were talking about, man, why doesn't Xbox get diversify their line of like RPGs or some shit? Now it's like they got Bethesda, they got Obsidian, they got In Exile, they got Fable coming out. Now it's an overload of Western RPGs on their front.
I'm not used to these things happening literally in an instant. Like, the entire landscape changes in a moment. It's going to take so long to get used to that.
Yeah.
It's going to take so long to get used to, like, I talk about a Bethesda game and be like, oh yeah, shit, the fuck, that's Xbox.
No, like the bare minimum, it's not going to really set in necessarily until maybe like next E3 time, when we're just seeing them talk about Microsoft Studio. Like, we see a trailer like Microsoft Studios and fades out, Bethesda's name comes up for like a game trailer.
In a weird way, what is the Bethesda brand gonna be now? I mean, because all these Bethesda was the name for all of these companies, but all these companies are just part of Microsoft now. So like, I imagine they'll keep the brand going in some way, but you know what I mean? Bethesda doesn't really mean anything anymore. They're all Xbox studios. They're all just a collection.
I guess
of Xbox
in a weird
studios.
way, it's kind of, think of it potentially like Bethesda was the thing, but ZeniMax was the thing above them. Yeah, it could be kind of like that, where even though we didn't see ZeniMax really shown as a big thing, like we surely will for when we see Bethesda, but I think we'll still see Bethesda's name at least for a while.
They'll keep it just because it's the name recognition is there. I mean, kind of like Blizzard. I mean, Blizzard and Activision are technically one company, but you still have your Blizzard. I mean, they are two different companies, but merging. It's weird. It gets weird. They'll keep the Bethesda brand just because everyone knows the Bethesda brand, but it effectively doesn't mean anything. Yeah, because like, there's no effective difference between like id and Obsidian, even though we'd consider id Bethesda and Obsidian not, there's no like actual distinction anymore between those two. It's weird. The thing that I like thought and then went away, and I wrote it down to make it not go away again, is we have also learned that as soon as like a month or two ago, I think it was Imran Khan, he said that Sony was in talks with Bethesda about Starfield exclusivity. So that means that the $7.5 billion deal came about like as quickly as like a month ago or 2 months ago.
And I think we might have an idea exactly when. This was Ryan McCaffrey from IGN pretty much when our article is like, kind of, what does this stuff mean, or this kind of stuff related to this thing. He brought up something apparently Darby thought about. It never crossed my mind, but it makes perfect sense the moment I read it. Did this deal come about after Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment came off the table? And I think there's a very good chance of that.
I think I would bet money on it, because that whole situation was weird. It was very clear someone was asking. Someone was on the table about Warner Brothers.
Well,
there was something there.
It's kind of funny when thinking back to how we talked about Warner Brothers and like who was talking about buying it. We saw Microsoft's name in it, but we're kind of laughing. It's like that kind of stands out, and I think from that kind of standpoint, we kind of looked at them as the lesser amount. Now it's like, oh, they're apparently willing to pay double what Warner Bros. Was asking. I think this is a better deal because you get the IP. And not just the studios.
I do too. Yeah, because I mean, Warner Brothers.
If you can get Batman IP though,
but no. I think this is all theorizing. There's a chance that Microsoft was not involved in that whatsoever, and this just happens to be separate. I really don't think it is. But if that was Microsoft, if Microsoft was the one at the table there during that process or whatever, that could kind of show what their thought process was this year, which was not necessarily that we're targeting Bethesda. It was that we are just targeting studios. It might have literally just been, we just want something. We want something big.
We want a big thing to add to our thing. And Bethesda, you know, I guess after that Warner Brothers thing, just kind of like they were offering it like
Bethesda's a better fit because again, like you said, even if you had gotten to Warner Brothers Studios, you probably weren't going to get the Batman licenses, or you were going to have to be licensed
them from Warner Brothers, and that could go away. Like you got Mortal Kombat, which would have been a big deal potentially, and Scribblenauts, but that's about it.
But, you know, like, I think Elder Scrolls and Fallout combined beats Mortal Kombat. I mean, Elder Scrolls alone beats Mortal Kombat as far as popularity. But
yep. Also, it's irritating the amount of people that I think, not jokingly, have counted Elder Scrolls and Skyrim as different series when talking about this. I hate you all.
The amount of Jeff, you haven't even played the game. The amount of time I've heard Skyrim 2 and then just recoil.
Yeah.
I mean, even like top game people will say like, "Oh, when am I gonna do Skyrim 2?" I'm like, "Oh my god!"
But based on the kind of, anecdotal stuff we've kind of heard and seen and everything, I think that timeline kind of adds up, or the potential of they were looking at Warner Brothers. Oh, that fell through. Let's talk to Bethesda. They're probably talking to Bethesda before.
It's absolutely bonkers to me that like a month or two ago, Bethesda was talking to Sony about exclusivity. So obviously this was not really on the table in any big serious capacity. And the fact that a deal this big would happen that quickly is crazy to me. Like absolutely mind-boggling, because I mean these companies move slow usually, especially with $7.5 billion. Like again, multiple $1 billion more than the Star Wars deal. Like this is not a light decision. And I think this shows that I think Phil Spencer and his team have a lot of power. I think Microsoft is very clearly not okay with just losing out on their gaming front, like losing all their gaming ground to Sony, which is what has been happening the last generation. It's very clear, again, Phil Spencer and team have convinced the Microsoft that gaming is something to aggressively pursue.
I think part of it, like as we talk, you know, and this kind of goes potentially against what I was saying about, I don't think they'll let maybe like Elder Scrolls 6 go on PlayStation, but they probably were showing data of like the potential growth and how much money they can make from like Game Pass and stuff by buying someone like Bethesda, and Microsoft Lars like that looks good. It's pretty probably the pitch was Netflix of gaming. Like we're helping to solidify it right here and now, and
it's part of why like I mean my thoughts are evolving, so I reserve the right to completely go against everything I'm saying now.
No,
but in a way this feels, because of the things that Microsoft's doing and like the Game Pass value that they're providing and having this subscription service that you can just play anywhere. Like, I'm not even getting an Xbox. I have this stuff on PC. It makes me feel a little bit better about something this bit. We talked at the top about like how do we feel about this consolidation and like this company taking over this big swath of the gaming industry with this move. It makes me feel better about it because of the kind of open market that Microsoft is creating here. If this was still a traditional like our box versus their box and we're just going to swallow up as many exclusives and make you buy our box, if it was still that kind of gaming industry, then I think I would have a complete kind of bummer tone here where it'd be like, well, fuck.
So the
you can't get you can't get this anywhere but Xbox now. Elder Scrolls held hostage.
So I don't mean this in a bad way, but so pretty much you're saying if Sony pretty much did this,
I think it's been pretty abundantly clear. I don't like the way that Sony is running their business from a consumer standpoint at this point. I mean, they put out very quality stuff I love, but I mean, they are traditional. This whole thing has kind of been traditional console market versus some new landscape.
Whatever's
going on
Xbox
here.
is doing. No, honestly, I'm kind of there with you. Like I'm still kind of juggling like how I kind of feel about this as far as Microsoft doing a big thing. I feel like Microsoft's things were kind of strange. I mean, and I know they're a big piece of the gaming pie because they're a console holder and stuff, but because their studios necessarily like we're getting there but wasn't up there like with Sony and some of the bigger juggernauts, I think that's part of the reason I'm feeling makes me quote unquote feel better.
It's kind of some catching up here. I mean, this was kind of putting them more on par with where Sony is.
With that said, and I think we can maybe move on to this topic. I don't want to see Microsoft do this again.
I don't either.
Like, I don't want them to, like, if they do another like Ninja Theory type or Double Fine type thing a couple more times, sure, fine, whatever. Like, and same on Sony's front. If they're just getting these smaller studios that we can tell probably may need some help, and that's going to happen, get those studios stability, sure, yeah, I'm fine with that. But I don't want either one of them to take a big company like big publisher like this and do it again. I think Bethesda is an interesting situation. Like, and again, I get why people are completely against this. And I have mixed thoughts. I'm not same. But as far as kind of the situation, I try to look at it as a case by case thing. Yeah. I feel generally better this than I would in a lot of different situations. Like, a lot of Sony fans have naturally not been taking it well. To the point where they are now begging Sony to buy like Capcom or Konami. Like, please, Sony, you gotta one up them. You gotta buy all this shit. It's like, no, I don't want this buying war to start. No. Plus, let's be honest, Sony doesn't have the funds.
That is the thing. There is a scary side to this. I think that we have to
acknowledge
in a way that like Game Pass is an awesome deal and all these other things, but like, make no mistake, I mean, what's happening here is something that happens in a lot of capitalism and a lot of like markets like this, where, I mean, Microsoft is taking a super duper big loss to undercut everyone else and like get market share like crazy so that they drown out everyone else. Yeah, I mean, that's like classic like Amazon, big corporation thing like that, to take insane losses that your competitors can't afford to take, and so that you naturally get all the market share and then you drown them out, and then you can jack your prices up once everyone else is dead, basically. And that is what Game Pass is doing. I mean, Game Pass is whenever you see a deal like that seems so ludicrously good that like, how is the company even making money? How is this possible? It's always because this is stage one of a larger plan. Netflix, I mean, did that. I mean, Netflix, like, super duper inexpensive, so it drowns out cable, drowns out everything else, and drowns out all these other streaming services until everyone has to come to Netflix. That's the type of thing that's going on here. And it does scare me a little bit, because like the Bethesda thing, this was basically like they hit the easy cheap button to like fast track studio growth, this fast track like being a successful publisher, whereas like, Sony and even Nintendo is kind of like built this over years of like acquiring things and everything. Xbox was like started from the bottom and they were just like boop like skipped over the line and like went there. And this is a type of move that Sony and Nintendo simply cannot do. And I think this kind of shows that if Microsoft really wanted to, they could completely own the gaming industry. It's a matter of how much funds.
Or if they really wanted to, Google or Amazon could strong arm and buy up all these studios.
Yeah. That's like Sony. We see Sony and even Nintendo as like big powerhouse companies. They're amongst giants. Like they are kind of smaller corporations that are, hoping that these monolithic companies that rule the world don't decide, you're being too annoying, crush, because that's what Microsoft could do. That obviously, we like you pointed out, this deal is worth like Sony's entire operating profit from 2013 to 2019. It's about the same amount.
Fun fact, because I saw this, I was watching the Monday night countdown for the Monday night football game. They were showing Las Vegas Raiders, get used to that, new stadium, which cost $2 billion to build. It cost four Raider stadiums. This acquisition.
Elder Scrolls is worth 4 Raider stadiums.
No. Elder Scrolls is only worth 1.5 Raider stadiums.
Okay, sorry.
The rest of it is.
It's really funny. Yeah.
I'm just going to do acquisitions in terms of Raider stadiums.
Please do, yeah. But yeah, Star Wars, 2 Raider stadiums.
Yep, 2 stadiums.
I don't know. This is wild. It's totally wild. Not something I, in a million years, saw happening right now.
Yeah.
This was like a joke. A joke that somehow came true.
Yep.
And I don't think it's any accident that this was announced the day before the Xbox pre-orders.
Yeah.
That was not a quickie dick.
They probably tried to get, okay, guys, we need to get done fast so we can announce it.
Like, I know it's not official, but can we just say it? Can we just put it out there?
Yeah. We're technically your boss now, so we're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're actually doing it.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is, like,
give me the social media passwords, Todd.
I mean, honestly, I'm glad I don't care to get in. I don't need an Xbox like day one, because I mean, those are already gonna be bad. There are people that are gonna go crazy about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
and that's just insane.
So morbidly curious.
Trying to think if there are any other big things before we get to the more goofy shit.
Love the goofy shit.
Yeah, I think we talked about a lot of the main things. So Darby, do you think Obsidian will make a New Vegas too? That's something that popped into a lot of people's heads. I think it's funny these companies are together now.
Did we talk about that in this recording or before the recording? I don't remember.
It was right before the recording. Okay. We're like, let's stop.
Yeah, so there was Obsidian actually retweeted a fan that said, "Hey, wait, does this mean New Vegas 2 could happen?" And they retweeted it with just like the shrug, like a little emoticon thing or whatever. And I mean, guys, I don't think these companies do things like, I mean, that was the official Obsidian account. Mm-hmm. They can't just do that because the lulz. They're just like, yeah, we want it too. I don't know. He's like, I feel like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's it. It's at least talked about, and I think it would be something way down the line. Like Outer Worlds 2 is what's being made right now. I mean, I think and Avowed is also being. I mean, I don't think this is something that's like, and this deal is as fresh can be. You know, it's not like any immediate thing, but I don't think they say that if there's hasn't been some conversation.
Yeah,
I might be wrong, but
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because again, this thing's so fresh, and odds are like people like Obsidian didn't know about this until it was announced. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know about that. At least like higher up. I mean, like, you know, random artist at Obsidian, maybe not, but
yeah,
I would imagine Obsidian studio heads and stuff would probably know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal what's happening, you know. It's like internally, I could see someone knowing. I don't think this would go completely behind closed doors.
Well, maybe not quick enough for the media guy to know to be like, I don't know. Or
that's a pretty big going rogue, because that guy has to know the articles are going to get written off of that shrug.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just a dumb social media person who doesn't understand what they're about to launch. You know, that's possible.
But also another thing I heard is about Avowed. It's so funny now that they own Bethesda that when that trailer was shown, it's like, oh, this is Microsoft Skyrim.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, at the time of that trailer, they didn't know they were going to have Bethesda. At the time of the trailer, it was like, okay, they did New Vegas. They did like our Microsoft version of, it wasn't Microsoft, but the Obsidian version of like New Vegas or whatever, like spiritual successor. So now we're going to do the Skyrim one. And I bet you if you went back then and said, hey, by the end of this year, you're going to be sharing the same studio with Bethesda. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but those, Sony has Last of Us and Days Gone come out like a year apart from each other.
Yeah. So like again, I'm very curious to see how this will play out as far as like these games potentially being on PlayStation. Just all that.
I still don't know. We've talked about it for an hour, and I still don't really feel like any more confident. I don't feel confident either way. Like I could see it like almost all being exclusive. I could see none of it being exclusive. Xbox is kind of impossible to predict at this point because they're doing everything so different. I mean,
and honestly, there's a chance that, and they say case by case basis, so that means they pretty much say as long as it's not completely one way or the other, it's like they'll technically be telling the truth no matter which way they do it. I mean, as long as it's not all one way.
I mean, they're leaving themselves open to do whatever they want.
Yeah, I'm saying like that. They're probably already planning out and getting some ideas, but for like Elder Scrolls 6, it's like, you don't know.
They probably at the very least want you to be unsure, so you just go buy an Xbox to be safe, so that you can play Elder Scrolls.
It's like they could see where they're at. It's like, okay, we kind of need Elder Scrolls to be exclusive, so it is now.
And I do want to like say, you know, I said that whole thing about this doesn't bother me quite as much because of the way Xbox is. I completely will admit that a big part of that is I have a PC that I can play Elder Scrolls on. Even if it is a console exclusive, I'll still be able to play it. And I understand that's a privileged place I'm at where I have that, whatever. If you are someone on a budget you're gonna get a PlayStation because you love God of War, Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank, all these, you know, the list goes on and on. You're gonna buy a PlayStation, but you cannot afford to get a new console, and you can't play Elder Scrolls. That fucking sucks. I mean, that's a big deal. Elder Scrolls is gonna be like one of the most hotly anticipated games of the decade. You know, it's gonna like I know we kind of meme on Elder Scrolls, but I mean, Skyrim is one of the biggest games to ever exist. Yeah. So it's I mean, amongst people who don't, there's people that's like the only video game they played was Skyrim, and they're still playing it now. It's like that sucks. I mean, that sucks if you played all the other Elder Scrolls on your PlayStation, whatever. You rightfully assume you're going to be able to play that in the PS5, but then you have to choose like Elder Scrolls or all these Sony properties. That sucks. That does suck.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that was a lot, Jeff.
That was a lot.
And we will 100% probably have another very lengthy conversation about this on the Nerds at Large Gaming podcast, which we'll post every Monday. And
Monday next week.
Yeah, it'll be whenever the hell next week. I don't remember. Are we recording it early or late? I can't remember what we're doing at this point.
I don't know. I assume late because TGS stuff's happening over the weekend.
Right. So probably more like Tuesday or Wednesday next week. But
probably Dark's gonna be out of town, and we got TGS stuff.
Yes,
that I will have my eyes glued on.
All the anime,
all the Resident Evil, 50 minutes of Hyrule Warriors. Let's go.
Did they say 50 minutes of Hyrule Warriors?
I think it's 50 minutes. Yeah,
that's a lot of Hyrule Warriors.
Let's go.
Well, you can look forward to hearing us talk about all of that and all of our evolving thoughts on this. I want to get Jacob in here. I want to get Will in here. We got to get everybody in here because it's too much to talk about. But thank you guys so much for watching this. Not so quick thoughts.
The quickest, some would say.
Yeah. Go subscribe. Twitch.tv/nerdsatlarge, youtube.com/nerdsatlarge, nerdsatlarge.wordpress.com. All that good stuff.